Okay, so today we are going to be doing the first video in a series of videos where I'm going to be talking about book series, and really strong entries in series. So today we're going to be talking about really phenomenal, gripping, incredible first entries to a series, first books. Then we're going to talk about books that caused me to change my mind about a series. So that's positive or negative. It could be books that won me over when the first book was just okay, or it could be books that I thought were amazing, and then the second book came around and then I was not really sure I wanted to continue on with the series. And then finally we're going to end it on absolutely phenomenal series enders. I can also talk about flat series enders if you want. I don't know if that would be as interesting. But anyway, today we're talking about great first entry to series, excellent starters to books. This is naturally going to be kind of a fantasy heavy list because fantasy tends to lean towards series a lot of times. But I have plenty of other genres in this list as well. I'm gonna start this video off in a predictable place, but I'll be quick about it. The first book on my list is The Lies of Locke Lamora, so you may not be surprised that I really liked this first entry in the series. I'll keep it really brief. This follows our main character Locke as well as his best friend Jean. They were both orphaned and raised by this man, Father Chains, who is raising orphans up to be swindlers, thieves. It's a dark, gritty world. There's really not a lot of good in this world, and therefore we're also not following good guys per se. This first entry is a lot of I think all the books have a lot of backstories, but there's a lot of flashbacks showing them as kids as well as showing them as adults. It's all kind of woven together, in my opinion, very, very, very well. And these characters in the now timeline are trying to pull off this elaborate heist. And I loved the way Scott Lynch wove the backstories together with the current day timeline. It is very jarring to get used to, and it's a very slow start to the book. But once you hit a certain point, oh my goodness, this book is incredible. This series is incredible. I love it so much. I think that this is an excellent first entry to a really fantastic series. Next is Little Women. If you want a feel-good book, oh my goodness, Little Women is that thing. I love this book so much. I have not continued on with the series yet, but I do plan to very soon. I want to reread Little Women and then continue on with the series. Little Women is a very family-focused classic story. You probably already know a lot about it because it's a classic and because there was a recent adaptation, so I'll keep it really simple. I love this book because I love the relationships between the women. I love the atmosphere of the story. I really enjoy these more contemporary sort of classics where we kind of just feel like we're immersed into a world that we didn't live in but was reality for a long time, and I find that so fascinating. I love this author's writing, and I feel like I'm there, and I feel like I'm there in such a dramatic and heart-wrenching yet beautiful and sweet and heartwarming location and setting, and surrounded by the best kind of people. I really, really, really love this book, and I think that it's a great entry into the series. I can't vouch for the rest of the series just yet, but it certainly is a great start. Mistborn and Skyward are on this list for me for sure. I think that Sanderson does a great job with first entries in his books. I actually think he does an even better job with second entries in his series, which is why Stormlight is going to be in the next list. Spoilers for the next video. But Sanderson does a really great job of setting up these really intricate, really interesting stories in very accessible, easy to read, and fun ways. Mistborn and Skyward are both really great entry places for Sanderson stories, for Sanderson's series, and I think that both of them are very gripping and very accessible and easy to read and interesting and intricate from the very start. Skyward is a young adult sci-fi series, and Mistborn is a adult fantasy, but it's also been remarketed and rebranded to fit into YA as well. So it depends on which bookstore and library you go into as far as which age category it's shelved under. And that's because it's crazy accessible and pretty much anybody could read it, really. And while Well of Ascension is probably my favorite of the Mistborn trilogy, I still think that this is a great first entry. It's a great starter to this fantastic series. And I haven't continued on with Starsight yet, but I'm going to within the next week or two. And I'm excited too, because the first book was such a solid beginning. Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This is a literary fiction trilogy. Only 2 of the books are out yet. They're both fantastic. I don't know when the 3rd book will be out, but I'm gonna read it when it is. This is set in a small town in Sweden, which is where our author is from as well. It's a small hockey town, and the whole town is wrapped around sports. It's wrapped around hockey. It's wrapped around the love of the game and the players. And this whole thing takes place, or starts really, when something terrible happens within the town. One of the hockey players does a horrific act. I never know if I should give spoilers because it's a big trigger warning, or if I should not because it happens later in the book. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but you can find the trigger very easily. This horrible event happens, and it's kind of the reaction of the town. Some people respond terribly and some people respond very well. The whole point of the book is the discussions had around it and really dissecting some really difficult topics. I love the way Bachman handled this. I love Bachman's writing. I always come away from his books with so much to think about, and this is an excellent first entry. It's a very slow beginning. It's a lot of getting to know a large cast of characters, but stick with it. It's very impactful. Legendborn! I just finished this. There's only 1 book out. I know for sure that there's at least going to be 2. I don't know if it's going to be a duology, trilogy. I don't know what it's going to be, but the first entry was so good. This is a YA fantasy, which I typically don't fall for YA fantasies so much, because I typically, if I want fantasy, I want something really intricate and big. I want the magic system to be really expansive, and YA is a lot of times more contained. But let me tell you, that is not always the case, and Legendborn is here to show you how great it is. I don't know where I'm going with this sentence. Legendborn, oof. This is a King Arthur myth-based book. I worded that poorly, but I'm gonna keep going. So all of the characters, all the main crew in this society that our main character Bree is joining are all descendants of King Arthur. And it kicks off in this, so this is a contemporary fantasy / urban fantasy type of fantasy, which is not my taste, but oh my goodness, this author won me over. So our main character is in this more contemporary modern setting. She's in is it a college or a pre-college? I'm not actually sure. She's in a college setting, and then she gets swept up into this society while she's kind of exploring the details around her mother's death. And there's a lot of talk of grief in this book, a lot of talk of racism in this book. The main magic system is very interesting, but then there's also different threads of magic that kind of like stretches out beyond that. And the way she introduces the different levels of magic in this world, and oh my goodness, it was so interesting. I actually just posted a review. I'll post it. I'll link it. But I really enjoyed this first entry. It was fantastic. Sherlock is a classic mystery series, and I don't typically fall for mystery, but I really loved the first entry in the Sherlock series. I thought that the way that he took these 2 separate things and weaved them together was just brilliant and blew me away. I don't love all of the Sherlock books, but I really, really enjoyed this one. A couple of manga on here that I have loved the first entry in. We have Death Note, which, oh, so good. The general premise of this is that there's these gods that hold these death notes, and in order for someone to die, they have to write their name and some information about their death, and then that person dies. And one god was bored, so he dropped his death note, his notebook, and our main character picked it up and decided, I'm gonna do some good in this world, and I'm gonna get rid of the bad people. And then you have a lot of what that makes of him deciding to play this role. And his descent. Can I say that? I think it's fine. I think it's pretty evident that that's what this series is. And oh my goodness, the first several volumes of this manga were so phenomenal. Oh, I love this series, even though it will show up in a later in a later video in a less positive way. I still have overall such incredibly positive feelings about this series because the first half was so good. Also, One Piece, which I know should show up in later videos, but I've only read the first 12 the first 12 volumes at this point. But I thought it was a great entry. I was interested in this manga from the very beginning. I think that it was a great setup. It was a great exploration of this world and great job at bringing in characters and making me interested in them. And I love our main character, whose name I apparently said wrong throughout the entire review. Review will be linked again if you didn't see it. Luffy apparently is how you say his name. I loved him from the beginning. I love this main character so much. I know a lot of people say that the first 12 volumes are really hard to get through and then the series takes off. Well, I can't wait to see how it takes off because, oh my goodness, I loved these first 12 volumes. Rage of Dragons is a revenge plotline with a lot of like battle and military-esque scenes, which are two things that I don't need as a focus of a book, but Rage of Dragons, oh, it got me. It won me over. I loved this different setting than I'm used to reading in fantasy. I loved the magic and the lore and the mythology that he wrapped into it. I loved these side characters so much. And the general plot of the story, while I don't care for many revenge plots, some of them are great, best served cold, but many revenge plots aren't my general taste. This one was so good, and I loved what Evan is doing with the series. The 5th season is such a good first entry to a series. Okay, the 5th season, how do you describe this? The world is dying, and we're following 3 main characters. One of them is in second person, and while that's very jarring, there's a reason for it. And once you get to the reason, the way this author brought it all together was masterful. It's kind of a difficult beginning because there's a big learning curve as far as she doesn't hold your hand through the beginning of this very different, very apocalyptic world, but post-apocalyptic world. But her writing is so gorgeous and impactful that it kept me going until we got to the point where the story started to come together, and then she blew me away with her storytelling as well as her writing. The Name of the Wind is... I know it's a controversial book. Some people absolutely love it. Some people think that it's just terrible. I happen to fall in the love. I loved this first entry so much. It was so different from what I really expected. And yeah, it has its flaws, but honestly, it's such a unique story in my opinion. I loved this slow, intricate, detailed journey through Kavoth's life. I loved getting to know this incredibly interesting magic system. I want to know it more. I want to understand it better. And there were so many dynamic and exciting scenes. It's not perfect, but holy cow, is it environmental. I was able to just sink into the story, and this slow, methodic pace that felt so intentional just gripped me, and I fell in love. And I'm ending this on a very sweet story, Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is 2 collections of stories and 2 collections of poems. I didn't care for the poems as much, but the collections of short stories, they're so sweet and heartwarming, and it's similar to, I'm gonna look at the title again because I'm terrible. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Well, it's similar to that in that it takes these more deep topics and kind of breaks them down a little bit more. It does it, I mean, the boy, the Mole, the Fox, the Horse does it certainly much more in depth and much more intentionally, but Winnie the Pooh does it as well. And it's such a feel-good, sweet story, and so many little lines just like make me have to stop and think for a little bit. And I love it. I love a story that I can read to my kid and that he can enjoy and that I can walk away from feeling good, but also feeling like, man, I have some things to think about. Okay, so that is a list of some really fantastic first entries to series. There are more books that I considered putting on here because they're great first entries, but I wanted to reserve this list to first entries that really have blown me away and have made me go, holy cow, I cannot wait for the second book. And there are a lot of great entries, but these are some of the best in my opinion. I would love to continue chatting with you about this list. What are some books that you would put on this list? And I'll see you guys again tomorrow with some sequels that made me change my mind on a series. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.